Hey folks, welcome into Pro Football Ireland Week 3. Getting ahead, starting to go. Big week in the NFL, and delighted to welcome everyone and be with you folks as we get ready for the third week of the NFL season. Pro Football Ireland, Ireland's biggest NFL podcast, presented by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and also the UK. Michael McQuaid, Mark Hogan, Jason Hayes is back also. It's great to see you lads, and appreciate everybody listening, watching, interacting. It's been great crack so far. I know we're going to have even better crack this week. Mark, first off, my man, how you doing? You good?
Yeah, good. I thought that we had Jason over there missing for an ACL, but it turns out he was just going to get a haircut, which we appreciate on the show, Jason.
Yeah, no, I said I better clean myself up before the surgery because it's going to be a long time before I can do day-to-day activities normally. But yeah, I'm back. Thanks for holding down the fort last week, guys.
How's it going? Give us what, so when players go in for the ACL surgery, it happens, when they've kind of gone to the back of our minds a month after it's happened. What's a week after the surgery? How do you feel? Are you back into contact or no?
Well, it's completely changed my perspective. First of all, as you say, like you kind of look at these ACL injuries in the NFL every week, and you just think, "Oh, he's off my fantasy team." But now I'm going to be thinking, "Oh my God, he's in for a tough few weeks." But I am improving. To be fair, the first couple of days are tough, but I'm coming off the crutches slowly. Putting weight on it straight away. There's no meniscus damage that sometimes comes with ACL. So if there's meniscus damage, you'll be off your feet for a month plus. But I was able to walk out on crutches. And yeah, slowly progressing every day. A lot of ice, elevation, and watching NFL.
Have you been taking any of Aaron Rodgers' advice and listening to like Dolphins or anything? Or?
No, those methods came out just after my surgery, actually. He kind of stole my thunder a bit there with his injury. But yeah, I might have tried that instead of the surgery if I found out on time.
I broke my metatarsal the same week as David Beckham broke his. There's my claim to fame. Anyway, let's move on. It's good to have you back, Jason, as we get set for week 3 of the NFL season. For people listening or watching for the first time, Pro Football Ireland, we're Ireland's biggest NFL podcast network. Way more than that. We've got live events. We've got Phoebe Schechter coming to Belfast in November. Jeff Reinebold going around 6 states in January and February across Ireland, both north and south. Check it out, linktr.ee/NFL Ireland. Well, it's been, as always, Mark, it's been a great week of build-up to this week in the NFL, and there is some, real interesting games as we look ahead to week 3, and there's always one to stick out because it feels like this week is going to be a week where, you really, really do move the chains. We've got the Giants going to the Niners in Thursday Night Football, the Colts going to the Ravens, Tennessee going to the Browns, the Falcons going to the Lions in a tasty affair, Saints going to Green Bay, Houston going to Jacksonville before they get to London next week, the Broncos, 0-2 Broncos going to Miami, first home game Miami this year, and we'll talk about this game in a few minutes. The Chargers going to the Vikings, both teams 0-2. The Brady-less New England Patriots are going to the New York Jets, Buffalo, Washington, Carolina, Seattle, Dallas at Arizona, see if they put up a fight this week, and Chicago at Kansas City. Sunday Night Football is the Steelers going up to Las Vegas for at least the first time this season, and the Eagles going to Tampa Bay, and the Rams going to Cincinnati on a Monday Night Football double bill. Separate topic, I want a double bill of Monday Night Football every week. I just don't want to watch the Saints and the Panthers ever again on Monday Night Football. Does anybody want to add anything before we get into our crazy topic schedule, boys?
No, it's just a massive week, and I suppose this alludes to the topics that we're going to go into, but it's it's kind of the first moving week of the season. There is a few of these, contrary to popular belief, but I suppose this is the one now that 3-0, you don't fluke into a 3-win season or streak, a 3-win streak, no matter who you are, and you don't fluke into a 3-losing streak either. So yeah, big week.
Yeah, it's mad. Jason, have you something to say?
Well, yeah, you say that, Mark, but I'm just eternally scared by the time the Cardinals started 4-0 and finished 5-11. So you can be a pretender for a bit longer, which yeah, it's unlikely. But really looking forward to the games ahead. I think there's a lot of even and tough matches. I'm looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to chatting with you boys. And as people know by now, we don't do picks on this podcast. We we talk through the details and we go through the caveats and take it to the next level as far as we're concerned. If you want to hear picks, Jeff Reinebold show Friday morning, 6 a.m. or 1:06 a.m. whenever I get it up online. I'm away all weekend, so that will definitely be up at 1 a.m. If you somehow see me in Prague this weekend, please do buy me a pint, folks, if you're there. Right, let's look at our first topic. 0-2 teams. There's a few of them at the moment. I'll not start naming them, but I guess, Mark, first off, which teams do you think at 0-2 have a chance of making the playoffs? I think we're going to pick a team each. I'll go last, but first off, you look at like that Vikings Chargers game, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, but 2-2 teams, and I wrote an article for this week. It just feels like, not just for these teams, but for various teams around the league. You look at the Broncos going to the Dolphins, for example. This is the moving week, and this is the week where, as you said, if you go to 0-3, it's so much harder to crawl back, especially if you're in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to name the 0-2 teams, and then we have some stats to back it up, but my notes have gone walkabouts right now with the actual stat in it, so you fill in for me for a minute, please. I think Jason might have it, though.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I can jump in here, Michael. So since this is the dreaded 0-3 start that every team is trying to avoid, since 2002, 99 teams have started 0-3, and just one of those teams made the playoffs, which was the 2018 Houston Texans. That might change a small bit with the extra 17-game season, but it shouldn't change too much. So it's definitely a big thing to avoid, and there's some teams that people wouldn't have expected to be 0-2 that will be looking to avoid that.
That's hard to believe. You almost forget, Mark, about the Texans back in 2018, especially with the whole situation there at the time. They done very well to get through that year. I'll give mine at the end. What team are you thinking of, Mark, that's sitting 0-2 at the minute that might make a push after this week?
Yeah, I suppose the people behind the curtain, we kind of were looking at teams amongst ourselves and who wanted to go where, and I kind of settled on the Patriots, who, after last night's show, if you listen to James Cahill, we really got into the Patriots because James is a Patriots fan, but they're a team that really intrigues me because of the teams that they've played. I think is really important. They've played the Miami Dolphins, they've played the Philadelphia Eagles, two of the best teams in the league on both sides of the ball, and I think that's really important to kind of talk about because they were able to hold good offenses to relatively low scores. I hate to repeat myself, but for those that didn't listen to the James Cahill podcast yet, they conceded 16 points straight away against the Eagles. That was largely to do, and this is talking about the defense, largely to do on the offense, in Ezekiel Elliott fumble and interception, Mac Jones. The same thing happened in the Miami Dolphins game. So the defense isn't being set up in fantastic position to defend against scoring points early on. But then what's absolutely remarkable is in 3 quarters of football against the Eagles, the Patriots conceded just 9 points, and a whole half against the Miami Dolphins, who might be the most explosive offense in football right now, they only conceded 7 points. So I think the defense is absolutely there. They have studs throughout the field. I think Christian Gonzalez, the rookie first-round pick that they had, is playing really, really well. But what's really been the concern, and Taylor Coyles, he's a beat reporter from that covers the New England Patriots, has a video up that if anyone's checked this, because I know talking about O-line is never an easy thing to do, especially for us that we don't know O-line well enough to discuss it fully. But Taylor Coyles, if you want to check him out on Twitter, really did show how the New England Patriots are giving Mac Jones no help. So it's like, with this bit of a Ryan offense, we against phenomenal pass rushes, like the Eagles' front last year was probably the best in the league. And then, going into this year, how high it was in the Miami Dolphins and Vic Fangio and how he schemes up against it, that they haven't really been given a chance to show off how good they could be. So it's a very difficult spot that the Patriots are in. They played the Jets this week, which it's like, it really, really is make or break, especially against another phenomenal defense. Like, they just don't catch a break, these Patriots. But they have the talent there, and I think Bill Belichick has been setting this defense up for 4 years now, and it is, going under the radar how good it is. So maybe it pushes them to another level.
Who have you got, Jason?
Well, I'm going with probably the most obvious choice of all the 0-2 teams, and that's the team with Joe Burrow, Joey franchise at quarterback. There's no way around it that the Bengals have had a rough start to the season, and they've come out slow for the second year running. Jason Williams of the Cincinnati Enquirer wrote that this season's start feels worse than that start in 2022. A quote from the article says that it's not just an 0-2 start, it's an crap and 2 start. Very nice. But look, I think he's right that there are concerns. Main one right now is Joe Burrow's calf, which Rappaport reported. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Today that his calf is looking a bit better early in the week. No injury report today, of course, because they aren't playing till Monday. But we'll see how they got on with that. But really, I think people overall kind of underestimate the impact that injuries can have in the preseason. So everyone was kind of concerned about Joe Burrow coming back in time for the start of the regular season, but you really have to factor in the fact that he's missed all of August essentially, and those are very important reps to getting in sync with the rest of the offense. They got blown out in the first week against Cleveland. It's not an easy game. They got blown out last year in Cleveland as well when they were in the middle of their season. They were better against Baltimore, still quite sluggish, but at least they're showing improvements. I think they'll come around and get right eventually. To take a quote from Aaron Rodgers a few years ago when the Packers had a slow start, I think Bengals fans just need to relax because they will get better. They're not going to play the season as they've started these 2 games. The next 4 games, they have a tricky one at the Rams on Monday Night Football. I'll talk about that in a second. But after that, it's the Titans, Cardinals, and the Seahawks, followed by an early bye. So definitely not the most gruesome schedule. If they can knock out a couple of wins there and get into the bye, even 3-3, 2-4, they're a team that's going to eventually get it right and get going and go on a run of 8, 9, 10 wins as they did last year. But it is all dependent on Joe Burrow coming back. I had to Google. I'm not sure if you guys know the backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. I had to Google it myself. Yeah, good shout. Jake Browning. He's had 4 snaps in the regular season in his entire career. So that's definitely a situation they want to avoid.
I'm in the and feel free to jump on me, both of you boys and the people listening or watching to this. I think I said this on the podcast with James Mark yesterday. I think if you're playing the Rams and you've got a game against the Cardinals, no disrespect to the Cardinals, and you've got 2 games in between that, and you've got a bye on the 15th of October, you're looking at those Niners and Bills games. You want to have a fully fit Joe Burrow. I have no idea at the time of recording what his fitness is. When you see Zach Taylor refusing to talk about his rehabilitation schedule or his fitness on Tuesday and Wednesday, you think to yourself, well, there's something else going on here. If he's not anywhere near 85 to 90%, I don't think he should play on Monday Night Football. And I think you give him at least the week after that off to get him ready for a grueling schedule, especially in the AFC North. If that means you're going to lose a couple of games, let it happen and allow Joe to come back fully fit and go down the stretch this season. I wouldn't want to bet against the Bengals, but I don't want to gamble on your best player's fitness also. Maybe I'm being too prudent. Mark, what do you boys think?
A lot's to play out in the AFC, but through 2 weeks, we were kind of saying during the off-season, the AFC North, the AFC East, teams are going to be really battling it out there for the final playoff spot, and that's why that Bills game is going to be phenomenal. If you were to give, say, the Dolphins the AFC East this early in the year, it's like, yeah, when you start talking about tiebreakers and that, because it's going to be so tough. But there is separation starting to form there in the race for that AFC spot, because like the Ravens, that offense is not like, give me a break. OBJ is not like lighting it up at all, and he's already injured. We don't know what the Browns are going to be without Nick Chubb, but their season really was going to rest on how good Deshaun Watson could be, and he's looking useless. So those names that we really thought were going to push them, maybe the Bengals are going to catch a break here and let the AFC East speed itself up. Even now without an Aaron Rodgers, that's another break that's gone in their favour, that is another team that's kind of dropping off. So it's going to be a tight race, but it's not going to be as tight as maybe we were hoping going into the year, if that makes sense, I think.
Let's see. I like the picks. I like the teams. I think you'll get a lot of loving from those boys and ladies that support those teams, boys. I'm going to throw fuel onto the fire, and I'm going to say that this game between the Vikings and the Chargers this weekend could see the end of Brandon Staley in LA if they lose the game. I've never seen as much of a cesspool at the minute like Chargers social media, and I've just got a feeling that if they lose that game to the Vikings, who are in the same numerical position as them in terms of their record, I think it could be enough to break the camel's back genuinely. But that's just me being, rumor central. Um, Watching Brandon Staley's sort of post game press conference last week, I'm thinking, what the hell's going on in LA here? Like, he's already like losing it with reporters and stuff, and I just don't think that goes on for 18 weeks. And I think you'd look at that and you look at the whole flirtation around Coach Harborough in Michigan next year. I don't think anything happens soon there, but I genuinely think Staley's number one hot seat at the minute. Guess time will tell in terms of when or how that might happen. If it is the end of the year, I think the Vikings win on Sunday. I think the Vikings, they're a team that a lot of people expected, including myself, I guess, to have some sort of a step down this season. A lot of people predicted the Vikings would miss the playoffs. They are 0-2 this season, but they're 0-2 in close games. They lose 20-17, albeit, in my opinion, unacceptably against the Buccaneers. They should have had way more points on the board at home in the home opener. 34-28 against the Eagles. At the end of the day, Brian Flores, a new DC, really had an opportunity to stop Jalen in the first half last Thursday and Thursday Night Football. When you've got Danielle Hunter, looks like a guy, I think he's had 4 or 5 sacks in the first 2 games. Kirk Cousins still looks relatively good. He's got fantastic composure. I was watching game tape from that second game last Thursday night. I just feel like the Vikings could win this Sunday and go on a bit of a run. I think regardless what's going on in Green Bay with Jordan Love and the hype around Detroit, I'm not even going to consider Chicago at this point. I think the Vikings have still got a great opportunity to go and try and push for the NFC North this season. And for me, out of the 0-2 teams, I like the Vikings to make a push and get to the playoffs. Call me mad, boys. Anyone really disagree with that?
I think the Green Bay Packers are going to have a massive say in it, and I don't know if the Vikings are going to be able to hang in the NFC wildcard race, because what's going to happen in the South, there's going to be one obviously from the... Yeah, I think that they have to win the North, because I think one spot is going to go into the South, the West, and the East. Like, if the Cowboys win the division, it has to be the Eagles. If the Saints win that division, it'll have to be the Falcons. If it's the 49ers, it could be the Rams now, not even the Seahawks, but one or other of them. That I think the Green Bay Packers, for me, they're a really intriguing team. And I think Jordan Love is going to get better and better as the year goes on. And yeah, I mean, that's a topic we won't go into it now. It's a topic for maybe next week, talking about LaFleur and the Packers offense this year. One thing I will ask you about, though, how soon do you think that Brandon Staley could be gone? Because kind of the closest coach to this in recent years has probably been Matt Rule, who was gone after 5 games, and he went into the season under a lot of pressure. The Chargers didn't get rid of Staley after last year. I don't know why they do it 3 games into this season.
And not even last year, and Jason, feel free to chime in on this in a second. Not even last year. You almost forget the game in Las Vegas a year before when the Steelers got to the playoffs instead, if I'm correct. And there was discontent then. There was, and look, the Chargers have been very good to this podcast. We've had Tom Telesco on. They're a fantastic PR department. I just feel that genuinely we're coming to the end here. And if you look at their schedule, they've got the Raiders up the week after this week, the Cowboys, the Chiefs 3 weeks after that. If they don't win against the Vikings, they could realistically be sitting 1-5 in a few weeks' time if they beat the Raiders.
I hope they hang on to Tom Telesco, though, is the funny thing. Maybe you can put it on him for not getting rid of Brandon Staley this offseason, but I do think they have a good roster in place. And one of the things I mentioned in the power rankings this week was Justin Herbert had an opportunity to finish off the Titans this weekend, and he didn't. And it was a bit kind of this is where you're supposed to be there. We talk about you so highly that this is where you're supposed to be able to jump in and able to win a game, and he ends the game on a sack and then 3 incompletions in overtime. That's kind of oh, come on, man. We all absolutely love your game, but it's you can't end against the Titans.
Well, that's the thing as well. And Jason, feel free to chime in here after me now. You let in 27 points against the Titans, Mark's talking about the Titans. You can see 27 points with Brandon Staley, who's a defensive coach, a defensive mastermind, some people used to call him on social media. And more so, this is the reason I think to get rid of him, Mark, instead of Telesco right now. I think Telesco gets another ride out of this. Dave Herbert on a rookie contract for this year and next year. They have a window. There's no point in disputing that. They need to act now. There was no point in them acting in 3 or 4 weeks, months time. Act now, act this week. If they go to 0-3, 100% act and move on and try and crawl back in the second place in the West, because I don't believe that the teams outside of the Chiefs in that division are anywhere near half decent. So they got an opportunity there. Time will tell. Jason, do you think Steely's in the job this time next week?
Yeah, look, I think you've covered all bases pretty well there. I think the question is, where do they go if they were to get rid of him this early in the season? But
Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator. Wouldn't it be crazy to see Kellen Moore now? He was
That's intriguing.
Once a hot
Okay.
shot. Then he kind of, came back down to earth. This is 2 years ago. He was a hot shot. Then last year, Cowboys fans couldn't wait to get him out. Then he does leave off the back of what we've talked about recently about that Ezekiel Elliott play that ended their season last year when he didn't get the block. So it's like he's really boom or bust, but it's like something that's intrigued me for years, and maybe the best way to do it is like this non-guaranteed 13 weeks of the season.
But going back to what you said there, Mark, about the Herbert having a chance this past weekend to get the job done, and we wouldn't even be talking about Staley if he did. It's the exact same in week 1. He had that chance at the end of the game against the Dolphins, and he didn't get it done. So look, he's a great quarterback. I'm not questioning his talent at all, but if he doesn't start pulling games out when they need him most, he's going to start developing a name for himself. And he probably has already, just the fact that we're discussing it in the first place.
Yeah, he has all the talent, and it's like, look at Trevor Lawrence taking it to another level now. He backed up that performance against the Chargers in the playoff last year when he came from the 27 points down. He's looking phenomenal this year. Maybe it is coaching, like obviously the Doug Peterson thing really worked out for Trevor Lawrence last year, and it's really reaping rewards now. But I see these quarterback rankings now, and it always have been number 1 Patrick Mahomes and number 2 Justin Herbert. If I was doing one, I think I would prefer Trevor Lawrence myself right now, and I love Justin Herbert.
You see him in the flesh next week as well. We Trevor. I don't think we're going to get Tom Zalesko back in this podcast anytime soon, boys. Let's move on. We'll talk about this next week. It's funny because we're going into week 3, and we have spoke for the guts of 6-7 months, Mark, about different teams that are teams that we don't expect to perform this year, and certain teams have. They've really surprised. I guess, is there a team that we've maybe classed as feisty that we just did not see coming in this off season? But also, if you were a team, you wouldn't want to play them. I'll jump in very quickly and say, for me, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I think the expectation was in that division that the Falcons would do better this year, absolutely, but they couldn't really do much worse after the last few years that they've had, let's be clear. But I remember on draft night, whenever we got the reaction to Bijan Robinson being drafted, and just people saying, "Oh, he's going to be a bell cow, he's going to be a worker for this team." He has been unbelievable. There is literally the special combination that he has, like elusiveness, balance, vision, the strength that he has also is just phenomenal. Like if I was a Falcons fan, I'd be so excited, like genuinely. And like for a team that has Desmond Ridder at quarterback, the Falcons are 4-2 in games that he started. Like that is huge for a start. And I haven't even talked about the running back room outside of Bijan Robinson. You got Tyler Algier and you got Cordell Patterson, who isn't even active at the minute. I would not want to face the Falcons. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they play the Lions this weekend, boys. And I can't wait to watch that game, because I think it's going to be such a run heavy, a really run heavy performance by Coach Smith, and I think it's going to be a lot tighter than what people think. But for me, the Falcons at 2-0 are good value. I wouldn't want to face them. Who have you got, Mark?
Oh, well, I think Jason looks like he wants to respond to it. I absolutely do. I think the Falcons and the Jags, it is a dream come true that we have them in London in just over a week's time. We're going to talk about them more in depth next week because it's going to be London week, and I know that it's going to have to happen. But I am so excited that we get to see those two teams, because they are both looking, those two teams, and maybe Green Bay and maybe the New England Patriots are who I'm excited most about. So I think you're dead on with that. Were you trying to say something, Jason?
Yeah, I was just going to add as well that Lions, Lions are a fun team to watch in the first place, but it should be a particularly fun matchup. I think Ty Montgomery is a bit banged up for Detroit, so we might see a bit more of Gibbs as well. So two of the top running backs taken in this past draft. Two running backs that are doing very well. I think I saw a stat. I can't remember the proper stat now off the top of my head, but it was something about missed tackles, and they're both in the top 5 in the league. Probably percentage missed rate or something. This is terrible information. I'm sorry, but yeah, no, it'll be a fun game to fun game to watch.
Mark, you've got a really interesting option for yours, man. Who have you got?
Yeah, I feel like I'm cashing in on this one now before they've played the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. But I don't know. You have to give credit to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Um, I almost don't know where to start. I suppose this is the obvious one. Maybe I'd dive in with Baker Mayfield, someone that I've never really given much credit to at all. But in fairness to him, watching him the other day, it's like, okay, the connection with Mike Evans is there. Kind of highlights that obviously Brady and Evans never got on to the same page last year. Just how many games was it that he couldn't get a touchdown and all this kind of stuff? We don't know how he pulled out a 1,000-yard season. But when you look at Baker Mayfield, just the player, he is playing absolutely fearless. If another quarterback was doing some of the things that he was doing, you'd be giving out, being like, he can't keep on running. He's going to get injured. He plays so fearless that it's like, if the play breaks down, he's very smart with his running. But it takes me back to week 1 where he went into contact because he wanted to say to the team, I'm your guy. I'm going to fight for you. I want the first down. Like, I'll put my body on the line, which I was like, oh, it's working for him. And we kind of forget that on the other side of the ball, the defense, I look back at the numbers, they still have 8 of the starters from the Super Bowl year 2 years ago, which that's massive. Like, that was a massive year, and that's been under Todd Bowles this whole time. So it's like William Golston is the only one now that's become a backup, but Vita Vea, Devin White, Levante David, Carlton Davis, the list goes on, some phenomenal DBs. But when you look at Devin White, the linebacker, there's a quote from him going around this week about how he now regrets asking for a trade. He said, okay, I was just angling for a new contract and I went at it too aggressively, but I really enjoy playing in this defense. So it's like last year that was a top 8 defense in terms of yards, 13th in terms of points. Like, it is a good defense. So when you're able to match that with this really feisty, and I suppose that's the name of the topic because that's really who I was thinking about, was this Bucks team. They are exactly that. And I think, like, look, within they have a certain number of games. They played the Packers, the Bills, the 49ers. You can kind of write off those games when it comes to it. But there's other games that they'll have against the Colts, against the Texans, even if you want to throw the Titans in there later on in the year, that they might be able to hang around with some teams. And then maybe if you get a Detroit Lions team later, I don't know, it's probably week 10 or 11, and they're able to get them at the right way, you never know how it bounces for them. And if we're saying that a wildcard spot could be going to the NFC South, they could just hang around long enough. So I think on their worst days, they'll be unwatchable. But I think that, they can beat those kind of so-so teams.
Love it. Fully agree. Jason, who have you got, pal?
Mike Evans, by the way, as well, is another name. Seemingly his last year with the Buccaneers, he looks absolutely revitalised right now with that Baker Mayfield connection compared to what he was with Tom Brady last year. So very fun team to watch. Quick shout out to Michael, by the way, who's foregoing the Man United game for this podcast right now. All I'll say, Michael, is don't check the score. Don't check the score.
Because they're like the Chicago Bears of football. So let's I'm presuming you're not going to say the Bears, no?
No. We're going to take it to the West Coast for the LA Rams, who were pegged by a lot of people as potentially being in the running for that number 1 draft pick this year and hitting the reset with Caleb Williams. But through two games, they don't look like that at all. They beat the Seahawks, who were in the playoffs last year, a team who just beat Detroit last week as well. So, Seahawks were wasn't their best game by any means in that week 1 game, but they still look dangerous. And they just went toe-to-toe as well with one of the favourites in the NFC, with the San Francisco 49ers. They're just doing a lot better than anyone expected. And tying it back into that Bengals segment earlier, I don't think it's a team you really want to face right now. Cooper Kupp's out, but other guys are picking up the slack and running with it. I'm not going to talk too much about Puka Nacua because Mark is going to cover that in a while. But Tutu Atwell as well. Absolutely playing beyond expectations. Cam Akers isn't playing for the team right now, but Kyron Williams has stepped in and he's looking very good at running back as well. I think the overall takeaway is that just Sean McVay is a difference maker, and regardless of the names on the sheet, his teams are going to be competitive, and they're absolutely surpassing expectations right now.
But when you mention Cam Akers, it's fantastic to hear it in the same breath as Sean McVay, because Sean McVay has said to him, no time for your nonsense. you're gone. Cam Akers puts up whatever his tweet was the other day, being like, I'm as clueless as you guys are. And it's like, no, your attitude's all wrong. Sean McVay's back locked in. He wants everyone locked in. If you don't have time for that, get out of the kitchen. So I think it's fantastic. We will talk about Puka Nacua in a minute, but I cannot believe the rise of that Rams team. It absolutely goes to show the importance of an elite head coach. I was thinking, we don't want to say it too loudly, Michael, but I was thinking of the same in the GAA. When you're a Derry and you have to go out and get one of these elite head coaches, they can make a difference.
Yeah, and we'll see how that goes, won't we? The joke up here this week is you're not entering free Derry anymore, you're entering Mickey Hart's Derry. So Owen Mulligan's not too happy anyway. I don't blame him. Maybe we'll get Owen, or like I'll say it now because I can say it for 30 seconds and move on. I want to get somebody like Mickey Hart or somebody like Thomas Niblock or somebody really like Nordy GEA based on this podcast at some point. I want to get Niblock on because I feel like we could talk to him about like the GEA's relationship with the NFL and Croke Park. Hopefully nobody else out there steals that idea. I've just said that publicly, but we'll see. Let's move on. Jason was mentioning Man United. Yeah, thanks, Jason. You've given me a bit of a headache there, and I guess our next topic is going to look at headaches. I mean, I get a headache now after Monday Night Football because I have given myself this unpublic challenge. I'm going to watch every primetime game this year. I'm going to Prague on Friday night, like straight after work, and I'm staying up to watch the Giants against the Niners on Thursday night. I'm doing it. I don't care. I'll have a headache, but let's talk about players that give coordinators or defensive coordinators headaches. And I will give you boys right now €100. I will transfer you €100 right now if you can guess who I'm going to pick for this. Mark, go for it.
Is it an offensive or a defensive player?
It's offensive.
Give us a position.
No, you got to pick it.
Give for €50. Give us a position for €50.
It's either a tight end or a wide receiver. How's that?
Give me a break. Tight end.
It's not a tight end.
I'm not wide receiver. There's so many of them in the league. Calvin Ridley.
No, Jason.
Nice guess. Mike Evans.
Thankfully, no. Thank God for that because I didn't €50 in the silver
exchange
account.
rate isn't too bad for you up there.
All right, you sound like a Finn Harps fan there, mate. Thanks for that. Love the Pro Football Ireland podcast, folks, every day of the week. It's funny because I seen you boys talking about just in the recording notes on WhatsApp on the players that you were going to talk about, and I went, you know what? I'm going to go completely off the beat here. I'm going to talk about a guy that's had 2 games so far this season, 13 passes, 226 yards and a touchdown, and his quarterback is a rookie. Nico Collins at the minute for the Texans is playing like a WR1, boys. He has shined through 2 weeks. 3rd year in the league. 20 targets in 2 games, caught 6 for 80 yards in the first week. And you look at how he's played so far, he literally has such a high fantasy rating. I think he's averaging 21 points a game at the minute. And you think, Mark, if he has a rookie quarterback there, what would he be like if he was actually open with somebody playing in the league for a few years? I've been so impressed with him, and I hope by the time that I finish this podcast, because I don't have time during the day, I hope that nobody in our fantasy league, especially the one that Mark Hogan's got us into that I won at the weekend, and there's €50 in, I hope nobody's picked him up. He's been really impressive with the Texans. His rookie quarterback's been impressive with the Texans, even though it hasn't went their way so far this season. He looks so good, man, for a guy that's 3rd year in the league, and you haven't heard too much from him. Nico Collins Express, am I mad? Am I not?
I think the Texans have been really good this year so far. I think that, I don't know where I have them right now in the power rankings, but sure, you have to be happy that they're after finding these pieces. They've knocked it out of the park with Will Anderson. Obviously, the quarterback now, CJ Stroud, is looking fantastic. And then you have Nico Collins. This is like almost the kind of the script that the Lions went with, that they're kind of building slowly, that they start putting pieces in place. Like when they put Amon Ross and Brown in there. So, yeah, I think you have to be thrilled if you're the Texans right now. But the player that I've looked at this week, and I know we've already said it, so no points for guessing, but Puka Nacua has been an absolute revelation for the Rams. But I think there's so many levels to what he's doing that makes him so interesting. Like, you've obviously seen this week that he's had 35 targets which is like the most through 2 games. But it's what's happened with the targets that I think is really interesting. 266 yards to go along with it. No touchdowns, what I'll get to in a second. But if you look at guys, he has blown that number away, that record away. It had been Anquan Bolden with 27 targets through his first 2 games. And behind that, you had guys like in fourth place, it was Garrett Wilson and Saquon Barkley. So it's like, it's no joke the players that are able to command that kind of attention from the head coach early on in the career. But one of the things that I kind of looked at is Anquan Bolden on his 27 targets, he would have averaged over 10 yards per target, whereas Puka Nacua is down at about 7.2 yards. And it does speak to, when I put up a graphic of Puka Nacua the other day, I see a lot of comments, not specifically on my graphic, but on the NFL and stuff. Fans, not of his, I suppose, are saying about, yeah, but let me see him go deep. He doesn't need to go deep. Like, that won't be Puka Nacua's game. He is a carbon copy of Cooper Kupp, which is crazy because in a league like that just wanted to get their own version of Cooper Kupp, the Cardinals go for your Rondale Moores, etc. years ago. The Rams prioritize not athleticism but football IQ, and that's what both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua had, and it's after working out really well. And why I think he's going to be a nightmare is because he's a very cerebral player. If he were to miss on those kind of like short yard runs that he's going on, or routes that I should say, first of all, his route tree is amazing, clearly, that he's able to have them. If he misses on those kind of plays that he's going to be a part of, it's going to be deflected balls and interceptions. So it's going to be like the quarterback does not want to go back to him too fast, but that's why he's lucky that he has Matthew Stafford. But I saw that he's 111 yards after contact, which is, that goes to show that like he's a phenom, like, after catch, like those yak yards of 111, that's 266 yards and 111 of them to come out as yak yards, I think is insane. And what I think is the headache here is defensive coordinators are going to need to figure him out fast, because imagine what's going to happen when the Rams have 2 of him on the field, because everyone's saying when Cooper Kupp comes back, his targets are going to drop off. But that doesn't mean that the production is going to drop off. That means that people are going to have an absolute nightmare defending this Rams offense under Sean McVay again.
Jason, some interesting points with Mark there. Who have you got for your player that can give people a headache?
Well, just look, Mark, you say there's going to be 2 of them on the field, and they'll enjoy that for this season at a minimum. But it'll be interesting to see how that affects the Rams' strategy long term. Now, Cooper Kupp suddenly doesn't seem too young. He's had a few injury issues lately. Big contract. They might be looking to cut ties down the line there if they can. But for my player,
that'll be intriguing if that happens. Could you imagine the guy that won them the Super Bowl literally sitting in the end zone where he caught? Oh my God! Don't even start me on that if that happens.
Trade value. Everyone would want a Cooper Kupp on their team. They might know how to use him, but
he's 30 years old as well, which is actually.
I'm surprised to hear that. Like he's starting to,
I suppose he kind of broke out a bit later, or made that star status a bit later. So, I was kind of surprised by his age. But for my player, he's an obvious name, but it's definitely worth talking about with the start of the season that he's had. Micah Parsons down in Dallas. Didn't think he had much room for improvement after his performance last year, but he's just really come out of the blocks firing this year. He looks more explosive than ever. He's looking even better as a straight-up pass rusher. It's easy to forget that he started his career playing more as an off-ball linebacker than rushing the passer, but he's probably 80-90% of plays now he's coming after the quarterback. Micah Parsons has at least 2 sacks in 28.6 of the games he's played in his career. That's the most in NFL history by 7%. And of course, he's still young in his career, but that's just a crazy figure considering he's only been rushing the passer consistently for the last 2 years. He had 3 sacks so far this season. Absolutely caused havoc for poor Zach Wilson. And it's not just a pass, he's blowing up run plays as well. I'm not sure, did you guys see that strip fumble that he returned?
Yeah.
Ended up coming back, but just the athleticism to take the ball away and run for a touchdown is unparalleled. He in the off-season, he was taking boxing lessons apparently, which I only just heard about, to work on his quickness. definitely seems to be paying off. I think this off-season now, every edge rusher is going to be looking like Rocky Balboa with their training. But when you pair him with DeMarcus Lawrence on the other side, definitely a matchup nightmare. They're facing the Cardinals in week 3 now, whose offensive line looks improved on last year, but they struggled against Washington's defensive line in week 1, one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. And the Cowboys look like one of, if not the best defensive lines right now, spearheaded by Micah Parsons. So Drew Pensing's in for a headache this week for sure.
Interesting choices, boys. I'm liking these topics. We're really trying to cover as much as the league.
We're going to look at that topic each week as well. I mean, we might make it more team specific going forward, but I think it's one that we can kind of look at these players that are week to week. I mean, like you said, Micah Parsons against the Cardinals, that's a headache for a specific reason. I know the same for Puka Nacua against these defensive backs with Cincinnati. We know that Lou Anarumo's defense has changed there. They lost Von Bell, they lost I can't think of the other, Jesse Bates, and they're going with the Dax Hill. So they are specific matchups that we probably haven't touched on enough today, but going forward we might do that.
We'll have a bit of a London focus also next week on the broadcast. Just before we look at our last topic, a couple of reminders to people: linktr.ee/NFL Ireland. Jeff Reinebold in Belfast, in Derry. Maybe Mickey Hart will be making an appearance. Also in Galway, in Cork, in Limerick, and in Dublin in January and February. My wife, my family literally hate me. They're like, how are you going to do that? I'm like, well, why not? We'll have a bit of crack. Dublin's about to sell out. Cork is going nuts. Limerick, I've never seen anything like it in my life. What is going on? Some ham down there, boys. Phoebe is coming to our first birthday party, and it's not a party, it's just like a night where we're going to be chatting to Phoebe. Pretty big night. We're two months away from that. It's our first year. Hard to believe that Pro Football Ireland is 1 year old in a couple of months. It's been a hell of a year, boys. And it's been a hell of a, not 1 year, it's been a hell of a 3 years for the guy we're going to talk about, and I think we're going to give him the stage tonight. We're going to talk a wee bit. Jason, I think it was me and you that had the Bears conversation. It was either me and you, or me or Michaela, and I feel bad if it was Mark now, but where the hell do we start, boys, talking about Justin Fields? Never mind talking about the Chicago Bears. Now, on the day of recording this on Wednesday, there was things said in the press conference was turned out to be that Justin Fields wasn't trying to be negative towards coaches at all. However, he had to come out apparently from the team and confirm that in the locker rooms after practice. It's all good there. I sat down on Tuesday lunchtime and watched about 25 minutes of play from the Bears game last weekend against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'll say it, I don't think Justin Fields wants to be in the NFL anymore. I don't think he has the ability to make certain plays. There was, I counted at least six moments in both the second quarter and the third quarter on Sunday that Justin Fields had easily 4 to 5 seconds of time to decide what he wanted to do, where he wanted the ball to go, and what decision that he had to make. He took the sack. That was on him on Sunday. There is no other way in saying that whatsoever. He doesn't look good enough for that team, and he has not made any sort of improvement that Bears fans would have been looking to see over the last 12 months, never mind 24-month period. Mark, tell me I'm wrong. I think Justin Fields is done. I have no inclination or want to watch the Bears play the Chiefs on Sunday at all, never mind the fact it's on TV. But when you're looking at a guy and you're now seeing the national media come out and say that it looks as if he can't read the field, he can't read defenses, that's a significant issue. I think back to the play against the Bucs where he ran in a straight line down towards the sideline and he got sacked on one of the worst plays I've seen in a long time. I think it was the Packers actually that game. It feels like it's not going to get better and it's going to get worse. And at what point do you pull him out?
It's a frustrating topic because I think that the national media often is a groupthink, because I've been banging this drum for a while. He has some fantastic highlight reel plays, but if you watched him last year as a Bears fan, you know that he wasn't being a fantastic passer. Now, I think it's absolutely a stretch to say he'd be gone from the NFL. I don't think that's what you'd want at all. I think you'd obviously want to develop. But here is a guy that got an MVP vote last year. because people were paying attention to those big, massive plays and the runs. But you are dead right. It's that he takes off and runs too much. How did we end up here? The Bears couldn't trade him this offseason because he was the only star that they could legitimately sell tickets based on. I talked about in Belfast, an absolute perfect situation, a perfect storm fell into their laps when the Panthers came and said, we'll take that first overall pick off you and we'll give you DJ Moore. And then Ryan Poles was obviously able to say, yes, that'll give us a chance to really evaluate Justin Fields, because instead of going forward with him and maybe take Will Anderson off the board, or if we go for another rookie quarterback who we have to go through this whole process all over again, and there was no guarantee with a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud or an Anthony Richardson, whoever they wanted to take, they said, okay, we can actually get an extra pick or extra high picks. We can get DJ Moore and we can build this thing next year if we want, and we can be completely confident in what we're doing. And perhaps if Justin Fields is poor enough, we'll be able to get the best quarterback off the board, Caleb Williams. So it's been an absolute perfect storm for the Chicago Bears. I don't think the front office could have played it any better. The hope, obviously, going into the season was that Justin Fields was going to make that jump the exact same way that Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen did. But how I've seen it the whole time is he was more like Lamar Jackson, not because of not because of style of play, but because of the situation that he didn't have any wide receivers. And they're seeing now, just putting him with wide receivers, it doesn't make it all perfect. He still has to make the throws, and he's way, 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 way too used to just taking off and run when he gets a chance.
Like, Jason, just in terms of going on from what Mark said, I mean, everyone that listens to the podcast, and we appreciate it, knows that both you lads are Cardinals fans. And I wouldn't have thought of any other franchise in the league that would have had such, not negativity, but just, I guess, a lack of expectation going into this year, which is very fair enough in terms of what's happened there. And I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, are the Cardinals a better team than the Bears at the minute?
I think the lesson is that low expectations are a good thing in life. I came into the season expecting to win absolutely nothing. I'm relaxed. I'm enjoying Sundays regardless of results. Threw away a 20-point lead against the Giants. Who cares? It was expected. But Bears, yeah, they did put a lot of hopes and dreams and hyped themselves up, and national media was probably a part of blowing up that bubble, Mark. But I think it's starting to burst now, for sure. He didn't take a step forward in year 2, and early signs in year 3. He's just not looking like a better player as a passer. If anything, he's looking worse. Even rushing the ball, I think the coaches really are trying to fit him and mold him into this pocket passer and keep him more restrained and more disciplined. He's only had 6.5 attempts per game this season compared to 11 per game last season, and averaging 31 rush yards per game this season compared to 76 last season.
Jason, I've got breaking news for you, mate. And we're recording this on Wednesday night. It's to do with the Bears, don't worry. Bears defensive coordinator Alan Williams has resigned this morning.
Oof.
Defensive coordinator.
Now, I know that's not in relation to Justin Fields, it's the same team.
What is going on? Chase Claypool didn't want to play football last week, and now the DC saying it must be awful behind the scenes.
And you have
Sorry, Jason, go for it.
The offensive coordinator Luke Getsy has his own question marks as well, because I don't think. Look, Justin Fields is struggling massively. It's clear. Stat I saw from Benjamin Solak on Twitter, a good follow there. 37% of his passes are behind the line of scrimmage, which is the most in the league. He's completing just 50% of those, which is the worst in the league. So he's attempting the most and completing the least of these short screen passes. The offensive coordinator isn't doing a lot to help him out. Great breakdown on, I'm doing all the shout outs here, JT O'Sullivan's The QB School YouTube channel. Great content on that channel. He had an hour and a half long breakdown of Justin Fields' performance against the Buccaneers. So a lot of what I'm going to say here is completely taken from his research. But they're asking him to do a lot. There's some run pass option plays where his eyes are everywhere. He doesn't know where to look. He's trying to make 3 reads at once where it just needs to be simplified for him. There's concepts being run that simply aren't working. Routes too close together. You got tight end like Cole Kmet, who's not doing a lot to help him. He's slow out of his breaks. Ask him to run routes and do things that he shouldn't be doing. Some bad blocking. All of this isn't helping Justin Fields out. But all that said, I completely agree with you guys. He's just not at the races himself. I think the majority of the blame has to go on Justin Fields himself, because his mechanics look off. He has accuracy issues. Some of the sacks he's taken, Michael, as you said, they're 4, 5, 6 seconds into plays where you can clearly see wide receivers open down the field. There was a couple of plays against the Buccaneers where one example was DJ Moore on a deep in route, clapping his hands to try and show Justin Fields that he's open. Chase Claypool was clapping his hands on a stick route to show that he was open. Rashawn Johnson at that wheel route that has been screenshot all over Twitter was doing jumping jacks in the end zone. When your receivers are doing stuff like that to try and get your quarterback's attention, it's not a good sign, because they don't have faith in the quarterback himself to go through his reads and be able to make the proper throws. He's a year 3 quarterback. You'd expect him to take a leap by now, and he's shown absolutely no signs of that. So I don't know how long he's going to continue being a starter.
130.5 yards passing per game last year was the worst in 14 years. And you're telling me that it's getting worse. Like, you can't proceed with that. But, I mean, what does his future hold? Because he could clearly work as a running back, right? I mean, that's the offensive thing to say. You're not allowed to say, oh, a quarterback can become a running back. But, like, he is super athletic. And it's like, can you fill him in at somewhere else? You know, imagine they do get a quarterback. I don't think it works with the Bears. But it's kind of something like someone ever wanted to try the 2 quarterback system. I mean, maybe there'd be a chance there. I don't know how it works out. I actually wonder, would the Bears, now that they have this offense, ever trade for Kyler Murray if the Cardinals were offloading him, because they'd be able to get him cheap and then, you know, plug him in and play. But then it comes down to money as well. But the Bears do have plenty of money. We know that much. But yeah, I suppose it's a story for another day, because it's like we can't keep on talking about Chicago Bears. They're just an awful team to watch.
Well, there is things that we could talk about, but I think for the podcast reasons, for legal reasons, there is stuff that's going to come out over the next couple of days.
Legal reasons.
I'll talk to you about it off camera, man. I'll talk to you about it off podcast. There's stuff going on, and the internet, as we speak, is blowing up. It is blowing up. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Maybe Field was right about the coaching comments earlier on. He was just being light about it, boys. Very quickly from each of you, I want to get not a bold prediction, but just give us a different bullet point this weekend, something we haven't talked about. I'll go first. This team right here is gonna get absolutely mauled on Sunday.
The Denver Broncos, for our audio listeners, is a hat that Michael just put on.
Christ, give Russell Wilson the hat and give Sean Payton the hat and just let them sit down. They are not, like, they're gonna go 0-3, right? Like, that's the start of it. But what happened last week, because I was recording Monday Morning Football with Michaela and Connor, and I had seen the play, like, when I was sitting recording, going, oh my God, they got it. Oh my God, they scored a touchdown. 2 points, here we go. I've never seen anything like it in my life, boys. And more so, they just don't look great at all. I think they go 0-3, and I think there won't be any immediate repercussions, but it's very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. Mark, give us your hashtag bullet point for the week. What do you reckon? Bears beating the Niners? Or sorry, the Giants beating the Niners, Thursday Night Football? What do you think?
Do you know what I think? And I can't find who. Can someone tell me who the Titans are playing this week? Because I almost need it to.
I can tell you, my friend. The Titans are playing the Browns, and they're playing the Browns in Cleveland.
They win that, and we are going into London week. And we will talk about this next week, because I'm so confident. We will go into London week with the best slate of games, the best teams coming over that we ever had. Because if the Titans were to do that, I think we could have 6 top 16 power ranking teams coming to London, which would be absolutely insane.
I'd love it. Jason, just to kick us off finally, mate, do you think your Cardinals will put up a 20 bag against the Cowboys in the first half on Sunday, or what's going to happen there?
No. That Cowboys defense is looking very strong. They probably weren't being ranked high enough. They're flying up the power rankings. Mark, I think you're on that.
Number one this week. Best thing to watch.
Number one. There you go. The man himself has claimed it. So yeah, I think I think the Dallas Cowboys are really the powerhouse of the NFL right now. I might tune into Red Zone instead of watching that Cardinals game in too much detail, to be honest.
Lovely. Well, I've enjoyed chatting ball with you, Jason. I want to thank you publicly just for coming on here, because I know you're obviously post-surgery. It's not easy coming on and chatting, so we missed you last week, and it's great having you on again, Mark. Looking forward to seeing you next weekend in London town, baby. It's going to be good. We'll talk a bit of football before that. For people listening, folks, if you're listening for the first time, please do like, share, subscribe, tell your mates, tell your ma, tell your granny, tell your granddad, tell everybody at mass, tell everyone. All you gotta do is sub, hit like, follow. Big thanks to the team at 888 Sports, also the official betting partner of the NFL for Ireland and the UK. This has been Pro Football Ireland. Hope you enjoy week 3 and enjoy some great games. And we'll be back Sunday night, Monday morning football, which will drop at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. For now, it's all fun.